And we are live again for our second student showcase. If you're here, say hi in the chat. Yesterday we had our first student showcase. It was pretty amazing. We had Gustavo Michalik from Argentina and Javier Garcia from France, and I was really blown away by their controllers. It was super nice. And today we're gonna have another great event, which is the Student Showcase 2. And let me see if we are live on YouTube. Yes, we are. If you're live, say hi. Just Stupid Idiot said rules. Nice name. Okay, guys, we have more. Please interact in the chat to see that I am actually live and I'm like talking to myself. And please tell me, where are you? Where are you from? Hi, man. It's weird to say hi, stupid idiot, because it's your name on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure you're not that. And Camila, hello, Camila. Where are you guys from? Please let me know. I am here in Brazil, and I'm in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, the city of Pelotas, where there's not so many people doing DIY MIDI controllers. So that's why I like to interact with you guys from the rest of the world. Nice, from Florida. So yeah, today we're gonna have our second student showcase. And why is a student showcase? Because I am inviting students from any of my courses, which is, I have the Nerd Musician Pro course, which is where I teach how to build MIDI controllers, how to program the Arduino, and how to build printed circuit boards. It's divided in 3. So some people do 1 or 2 or 3 courses. So we're gonna learn a little bit about them today. And often students post some of their projects on our group, in our Facebook group, and I always go there, take a print screen and save to myself. And there's like so many really, really nice projects, and I'm constantly mind blown by their projects because I teach in a way, but each student find their own personality, as we saw yesterday. And besides Gustavo and Javier that we had yesterday, today we're gonna have Janis Wilson and David Jacopin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. They have pretty different projects, and I'm really interested about them. So I'm going to change here my screen so you can see them. So now here, you guys feel free to unmute your microphones. I guess you're live now.
Is that okay?
So thank you, David. Thank you, Janis.
It's a pleasure, my friend.
Be welcome. Okay, guys. So we have Janis, we have David. So we have a lot to cover. I'm not going to keep talking here for you. Just to say hi to Andreas. He's from Chile. I think you were here yesterday. And also from Bali, Senja from Bali, Indonesia. Yeah, I said that yesterday, that Indonesia is one of my favorite places in the world. I stayed in Lombok for a couple weeks and it was one of the best times of my life. Thank you. So yeah, guys, I'm Gustavo Silveira and this is the Nerd Musician channel. Here we talk about DIY MIDI controllers, and today we're gonna have some of the students of my courses, but the merit is all theirs, okay? And we have Janis and David, and we're gonna start with David today. And David is launching his, I couldn't say it's DIY anymore, it's like totally so professional project to the world, and he's gonna be talking about today. So, whoa, where is? I was going to introduce David and he's just vanished from the chat, from the Zoom call. What happened? Oh no. My God.
Maybe if we give him a second, he'll call back in.
Okay, so I don't know what happened. I'm gonna ask him. What? Anyway, so if David, he's gonna come back. We're having a little bit a little bit of some technical problems. So before we start with David, because he has to go first because he's late for him. So let's start with Janis. We already talked a little bit. So at least Janis, you can introduce yourself and tell us like why are you building MIDI controllers? Like, what's your thing?
Sure. Thank you, Gustavo. My name's Janis Wilson Hughes, and I'm in the United States. I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And a year ago, I didn't know anything about coding. I didn't know anything about Arduino. And honestly, MIDI was like a confusing thing to me. But I am a musician. I'm a longtime guitarist and also play some drums. And I'm also very into this acoustic instrument called hand pan. In some countries, they're called pantums. And years ago, I backed a Kickstarter for a digital version of this instrument. And long story short, that Kickstarter went belly up. And I've always still wanted to have a digital version of it.
Sorry, the Kickstarter happened or didn't happen in the end?
Well, it happened, but then they went bankrupt. So I paid and I lost my money, which is something that can happen with Kickstarter.
Oh, you lost your money.
I did, but that's water under the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew it going in that that could happen. So that, um, but I've still always wanted one, and I am a maker of other things. I build drums and I build guitars actually. So making was something that was kind of in my lane already and interesting, but I really just didn't know what was going on the electronic side for how to tackle this until I found Nerd Musician, and it really changed everything for me. I can share a couple of quick clips just so people know what a hand pan is. I'll share a little video here. So it's just a few seconds long. This is me playing the hand pan. At first, it's kind of a chill meditative thing, and then there's a more lively clip at the end.
So just before you start,
Sure.
so you do pottery. I'm gonna ask that later, but you do pottery and you also build guitars. I want to see that later. But like, yeah, play the video.
Yes, I do have some information on a guitar that I built here coming up too.
Nice, nice.
So,
Because I
so
play the
this is
guitar. Guitar is my instrument. Like I have, I mean, two acoustic here's, and I have another electric here. So yeah, I'd like to see
yeah,
that.
man. Guitar is my thing. I'm an electric guitarist. I build electric guitars. I've been playing for about 20 years, so I'm with you, Gustavo. I love guitar, but
Nice.
in the meantime,
Go for it.
this is what got me started with MIDI here. So this is an acoustic instrument that I was dreaming of building. So that just gives you an idea of the acoustic instrument. And I'll go ahead and spoil the story and tell you guys I I succeeded in building a digital one. I built a MIDI handpan, and I'll just give you a little teaser of it, but I will talk about the process and some things along the way and more in depth later.
Yeah. So one thing, I really love the handpan. I have a friend here in my city that he has one, and I don't know if you saw a video that I made with him. I'm playing one of my like the XT synth, one instrument that I made with the handpan.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah,
I
don't know if I can find to show here, but like maybe in the end. But yes, I love this instrument too. There's a guy here in my state that he builds them, and he's like kind of selling worldwide super good handpans, which still are cheaper than most of them. They're like, this is a pretty expensive instrument, right?
They're very expensive. They're temperamental in that they do go out of tune, and you have to find someone who makes them to retune them. And they're rust prone also. They take up a lot of space. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate to have several. I think there is space for the convenience of having a digital version.
So you took the magic of technology and the maker world, Arduinos, etc., and build one yourself.
After much trial and error and many iterations, I'll give you this is like, I don't know, 15-second clip here of one that I literally finished on Saturday. This is my most recent version. Here we go. So that was just a little wet your whistle teaser. I'll talk about it a lot more at the end and show more of the features. The really cool thing about the MIDI version for me is that I can change it to any scale I want, any key that I want. And you could use it to control other instruments as well. Like you could plug it into a synthesizer and play your synth using it as a controller.
Do you have I know you just started, but like, do you have examples with sounds that are not the handpan to show us?
I don't have one prepared for the meeting. I do have one on my YouTube channel, but an older one from the first version of I call it the Panduino because it's a handpan with an Arduino brain. So the Panduino.
Panduino, nice.
But yeah, I'm afraid I didn't bring that prepared
no
to
problem.
show. But there have been many iterations of that before getting there. And you were asking about the maker, my maker background and guitar background. So my journey in life has been a winding one, as has my journey with music. So I was a chemical engineer for 11 years, and I left that to be a full-time potter. So I was and have been making nature-inspired ceramic sculptures as well as functional pottery. But I've made a lot of ceramic instruments along the way. I've made ocarinas, several different kinds of drums, made a djembe, a doumbek, and udus, which are really cool. I've got videos of these on my YouTube channel. Even made a ceramic didgeridoo.
Wow. I used to love also I also had like a pretty whining musical journey, and I had my phase where I wanted to play as many instruments I could. So I had my didgeridoo phase.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one. I had bamboo ones, But now I just have one that I got, like, it's a traveling didgeridoo, which is you can I don't know how to say.
Disassemble it.
Yeah, you can assemble it and disassemble it, like, and travel when something that's like this size. So that's the one
Much
that,
more convenient.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like a pottery, like didgeridoo, that's ceramic didgeridoo, sounds
Yeah,
I guess
it's
the sound must be
actually in
interesting.
a coil
Uh-huh.
to fit it inside the kiln that way. So yeah, it's a fun experiment. As a longtime guitarist, I got involved with a community of people who build cigar box guitars. So this is a really old tradition that started in the early days of the United States when people just didn't really have money and they wanted instruments, they would build with what they had. And Bo Diddley, if you've heard of Bo Diddley, musician, guitarist from I don't know, maybe like the 50s. Um, he played a cigar box guitar. But anyway, I got involved in that community step by step, learning from rudimentary up to much more complicated versions of building guitars. And because my real love with guitar is electric guitar, I build mostly electric cigar box guitars, even down to building the pickups myself. So I have worked with potentiometers, which control your volume and tone on the guitar, and some rudimentary soldering before I started with the nerd musician work. But you guys, my soldering was pretty basic. So don't be afraid if you don't know how to solder or anything like that to dive into the MIDI controller stuff if you're interested in making your own stuff. But just so that as a further introduction that'll make some of my approach to my MIDI stuff make more sense, I'll show you a quick clip of me playing a cigar box guitar that I built. So I built this whole thing from scratch, the chunk of wood, the box, soldered everything, put the frets in there. The clip kind of comes in progress in a live looping piece, but hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So that's a
Really
cigar box
nice.
guitar.
Really nice. Um, I have lots of things again that I want to send you later. There's a guy. Maybe I can get him live here one day. I will try to do that. His name is Jeff Snyder. Um, he teaches in the university. He's a scholar. He's great, and he built. He has some. They are MIDI controllers, but also synthesizers, really unique ones. I think he has a company which is called Snyder Phonics or something like that. And he built it's like a lap steel, but the sound is all synthesized. But he gets all the nuances of the lap steel. He has some pedals, but I don't know how he does with the strings, but because everything becomes sensors, and it's so nice. It's a full synthesized lap steel, but it's also a MIDI controller. Jeff Snyder. I'm gonna try to bring him here in the channel. Snyder Phonics. So yeah, that's something that if you build guitars, it's like building a guitar that has some MIDI capabilities or synth capabilities, which was what I did with the XT synth. It's the next step, maybe. Well, one of the next steps for you, right?
Right. There's the thing about starting to make your own instruments is you build one and you're undoubtedly going to get 10 more ideas of things that you want to build. And same thing for MIDI instruments, as far as I'm concerned. Once it got going, my end goal, I couldn't just jump straight to it. I had to take some baby steps and learn along the way. But much to my joy and surprise, because of Gustavo and his classes, literally, I couldn't have done it without the musician classes. Managed to build pretty much what I was after in the beginning in a little less than a year here. And but little chunks. And I had some diversions too, because I started getting into synth stuff along the way, and then wanted to go down that rabbit hole for a while on the MIDI side. But I think what probably makes the most sense is there's a particular project that might be of interest to a lot of people that I put together. I call it the Root Commander. I've got it here. So this is just a really simple version here. This is got your traditional 5-pin MIDI connection here, so you could plug it into anything that accepts MIDI, including your computer, your DAW. This is just power. This has a screen. So Gustavo, are these screens? So I always call it an OLED, but is it OLED or OLED? I don't know.
Good question. I call them OLED, but I'm not sure if I call it because I've heard like this or just I don't know.
I've heard other people say OLED too, but I always say OLED. So you guys, I'm just gonna say OLED, and you can laugh at me for being wrong. But the point of this particular controller, I built an Arduino-based synthesizer that was a really basic project, just to sort of get started with Arduino. And it accepted MIDI input, and I'm a guitarist and more percussionist, but I don't play piano. And I can't easily pick a note on a piano or stay within a particular scale on a piano. So let's say a piece was in the key of D in the mode of Dorian, and I wanted to pick the fourth in that scale, not to get too music theory-ish on you. I couldn't just easily grab that on a piano keyboard. So I wanted to build something that would do that thinking for me and just already know. And then you could select your scale, select your key, and make it as simple as possible. So it have the 7 notes, but then you can shift the octave on the fly up or down for a higher or lower note. And then you can just hit these buttons and you're always going to play a right note within that particular key. So that's what this does. And it's got Arduino inside. I used potentiometers. A lot of people would use encoders, but for me early on, potentiometers are just way more straightforward to work with because for one thing, it's just one input into the Arduino. And I could just set from this value to that value, then it means major scale. From this value to that value, it means minor. So that's the way I have it set up. I do have a little video demonstration of this running into DAW, DAW, controlling a virtual instrument that's arpeggiating. So this is just shifting. I'm using this in the video to shift notes on the fly. you'll see at the very beginning of the video, because I don't have this plugged in right now to show you, I will use these potentiometers to, the screen will show at the very top, it shows the name of the scale. So I'll adjust what scale I'm playing. I'm going to shift it to Dorian. I'll put it in the key, I think the key of E, that's this knob here. And then maybe I'm doing this backwards, but, and then this one's the octave. So as I'm going along, I'll occasionally be sliding one of these knobs and it's going to shift the octave that's playing. You'll hear that.
Yeah, so this is a pretty customized or pretty unique project. So did you write this from scratch, or what did you adapt? Did you adapt from the code that I provide? Because I don't know if the guys that already used my code, you can use buttons, potentiometers, encoders, things like that. But for you to have custom scales and changing octaves, there's something that you did, you created. So how much of this controller, like the code, if you did from scratch, like what you used from another code, how was the process? And how long did it take to build this one?
So all of the buttons are controlled on your button code, which is so elegantly simple. It's I love that code. It makes life easy. The potentiometers do use a different bit of code that I used something called a switch case to set these up. So it takes a reading and it basically says what I was describing earlier. If the reading is between these two values, then set the case as whatever, like for the scale, let's say, set it as major, etc. And that's how these work. So going through your class and going through all of the demos, obviously I have all three of your courses. The one on coding, it started with that, going through each of your demos, learning step one, going through turning an LED on, what the code means, and built up from there. And really from there, if I wanted to do something else, I was generally able to search and find that approach that I needed to do, but I wouldn't have been able to start from scratch and do this at all. The tricky part, I think, the student Gustavo yesterday mentioned how tricky it was to get the OLED, the screen programming working. I found that very tricky also, and one of the aspects that makes it hard is a lot of the available libraries or pieces of programming that run that hog a lot of memory, and the Arduinos don't have a lot. So I ended up finding a lesser known library that I work with that's just simple. And yeah, this code, it's funny. I have documented this out. I actually drew the circuit out in Fritzing as you taught us, and have the code shared on GitHub if anybody wants to make one.
Yeah, I would love to share, like if you can, then share put in the description of the video. That would be lovely.
Okay.
Yeah, and the display. I also had this. I've been through using first the Adafruit library, which you can do lots of things and graphics.
Huge, though.
But it's super heavy. You can't use. Then you try to find like a lighter one. I don't remember anymore which one I used, but I would like to see which one are you are using.
Yeah, I've got this all open source for you guys, so anybody watching this, we can share it. What was I gonna say? So this is like my first thing that I went off the reservation and programmed myself. Okay, like out of the class, and and program myself. And I'm not gonna lie, it says it right in the GitHub description. This is not elegant code, okay, but it does work. So this is it's very memory heavy, which is mainly because of the OLED, the screen. And I have just recently, in the last month, learned some things for the Panduino project, because it also has an OLED, ways to reduce the memory usage there by using different form of memory in the Arduino. So
Yeah, instead of using integers, yeah, like
oh
always
my
when you
gosh,
can
yeah.
use a byte, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something that I had to do in my code too. Like I redid everything and put all the variables that I could use, bytes, which are the lighter one. I did it. But yeah, so it's a pretty good
Yeah,
practice.
it is. It makes a huge difference. That was a big learning for me, and I need to go back and probably do a V2 version 2 of this code to clean up for people who also want to use it. But it does work as is. This I'll go ahead and show it in action. Um, Again, you'll see me set the scale, the key, and then the octave, and then I'll be using the red buttons to play the specific notes. They go in order through the scale, but then I'll be shifting the octave at times. So it'll be, the same note, but an octave lower or higher. So here we go. All right, so that was this guy in action. I think this could actually be useful for a lot of people, and you could obviously build it in any kind of form factor that you want. I think for me, these kind of project boxes are kind of feel like home for me as a guitarist, because I'm used to guitar pedals. So just having this cute little modular box is something that just made sense to me, and I know it's very different from what a lot of people have shared so far.
Yeah, and this kind of controller paired with an arpeggiator, you can do so much. I have
Yes.
a student. Actually, she was helping our students. Her name is Marina. She's
Yes, I've
not.
seen her in the group.
Yeah, she has been out because she got into college. She went to the United States, and she's doing something related to music technology. And she's really good. And her project is it's a box with lots of buttons, and I think that each button is a chord. But there's this whole lighting system that it also helps you to learn theory. So it's also goes in this way of how can you make it easier for someone to play, right? How can you get faster into making sounds and playing chords? So there's this big market for this kind of tool in software and
Yeah.
in hardware. Hardware is harder because hardware is more expensive. So we have a bunch of things that in software, but not so many in hardware. So, I mean, things like that can go to the market or just be open source projects so people can do it.
Yeah, it's really convenient. I think right now this particular code I have set up with major, minor, Dorian, and maybe Mixolydian. I'm not really sure which modes I put in here. I don't think I put Locrian in, or some more obscure
Who
ones.
cares about Locrian?
Poor
For
Locrian.
Locrian. I think there's a Adam Neely video where he gets different composers, and they're all YouTubers, and all of them have to make a song only using Locrian. It's pretty interesting. Really nice results. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, how really convenient this is with an arpeggiator. So along my winding MIDI controller path, I stumbled on this project there. I think it began at a university. So my thing, so I'm rambling a little bit, but most everybody else has really been very DAW controller focused, and I'm a little more of a standalone DAW-less approach type of musician. And I stumbled on this project that uses an Arduino and a special library called Mozzie to actually create like synthesizer sounds. And there's a really, really simple project out there called Auduino. So like Auduino, like audio. And all it has is 5 potentiometers when you start out, and it makes sound. And it has like a filter, and I don't even remember what the original one started out as. I built it, and then it morphed quite a bit, which is something that an approach that I would encourage people to take in developing your idea. If you're starting like me from not having any background in this, but you have an idea that you want to build, take something simple, study the course, study the information there, get your building blocks, and take something simple and experiment with it and make some changes. So that simple 5 knob synth, I stumbled on another project that was like, oh, I could just I've already built this. I'm not even going to build another one. I can transform it into this other thing that also had 5 knobs, but it had a couple of buttons to do arpeggios also. So, but it was blind. I would call it blind. It didn't have any kind of screen. It's a really cool project. You guys should check it out. It's called Mosquito. You can find it on probably Arduino Mosquito synth on YouTube. And the maker shared it open source. So, let me find that guy. So this started out as a 5 knob thing. It didn't have the buttons or the screen. It just had another potentiometer here in the middle, which got moved over here eventually. This box it's like the Frankenstein creation here. So the fellow created this arpeggiator the code had an array of arrays for code people with different arpeggios, and you could just kind of scroll through them, go up or down through the things, and the box itself actually makes sound. So this is power. So here, this is an audio jack out. These weren't part of the project either. All kinds of stuff got added to this box. So I added MIDI to it so that I wasn't just stuck in some default key or having to blindly sweep a potentiometer to change what key it was in. So I wanted to be able to do that smart, like go from the 1-4-5 key chord progression kind of thing. Music people maybe have some idea of my rambling here is, but this got changed. I was like, this would be super cool if it had a drone function, so I could just take like a music break and like break it down instead of like doodly 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 doodly. They just go like doo 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 doo. That's what I'm calling drone. Just like drone on one note, and I could do some other stuff and do some filter sweeps and because I'm cool like that. So anyway, I fiddled around with the code, figured out how to do this drone thing. Understanding the MIDI part through Gustavo's course is the only way I could have remotely had any idea what was going on here. Did add the 5-pin traditional MIDI here. And then after I got that working and the excitement wore off, then I was like, I really need to have a screen on here so I can tell what the heck, which arpeggio I'm playing, because maybe I want to be able to do so. So anyway, this got really complicated. I added the screen, changed the programming on this, added a MIDI through. So stuff just started getting put everywhere on this box because I ran out of room. So I added a MIDI through. It also has a way to send like a sync pulse out to like a chord vocal to get it going with the drum machine. So added that in. Then I added like a master volume here for the audio output, and then this little toggle switch for the MIDI through. You could either send, so you could have this playing music, and then you could send it through to a second synthesizer. You could either have it playing the exact same notes. This actually controls the note of what the MIDI through gets. So, and I had to go online and create this special label. So you can either have it, so we're going from 2 octaves, you can go the same note, an octave up or an octave down. And then you can go a fifth if you want for power chord, for guitar people. And the toggle switch allows you to either send every MIDI note out in the through to be matching the box, or you can send only the bass note out. So you could run the MIDI through to another synth just for like some bass accompaniment. So this thing got really complicated, but I learned so much and got so many ideas. And I want to go back and build an original one that is without the onboard audio and just the all of the other functions, like the arpeggiator. Oh no, there go my dogs. But anyway, I will share a little video where you can see this being used. It's being used with the root commander. So I'll be pressing buttons on here, changing arpeggios. The root commander, so sorry about my dogs, will change the bass note of the arpeggio, be using some of these filters, and also using an Arduino drum machine that I built, that the Arduino itself is making the drum sounds. So
Wow,
this is like a DAW-less all Arduino jam here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to say that you got the whole band even before you said about the drum machine. It's so nice,
yeah.
so many things going on. Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, all right, guys. Here we go.
So nice. So so no DAW, only Arduinos. Your mic's muted, I guess.
So, yep, all Arduino, no DAW,
Wow.
straight audio out, no effects or anything. You could really pump it up with like some reverb or a little delay on some of these, maybe some compression on the drum machine.
Yeah, something.
But I wanted to just keep it clean for the demo.
Yeah, something that I really want to see you doing is all these buttons like in a pedal board, and you with your cigar box. It's cigar box that you call?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cigar box
cigar box
guitar.
guitar with the knobs, or like expression pedals, and you have like your whole band and
Yeah,
all acoustic, like no DAW. It's like
yeah, I know.
it's like that guy like Look Mom, no computer.
Yes, I do. He's great.
Yeah, I
Love
love that
him.
guy. So yeah,
Yeah, he's so
it's a
smart.
thing like building without a DAW, like having doing the synth part is hard. Um, yeah, the XT synth and it broke. I'm not showing the instrument because the thing broke in half. I have to rebuild it.
Oh.
Yeah, it fell on the floor and
Oh.
anyways, it started as a synth. I was using my first experiments was with the Mosey library,
Hmm.
but then I started using the Tinsy library. I don't know if you have used.
I haven't gotten into that. I do have a
Hmm.
teensy board, but I haven't tried it yet. I want to.
Yeah, it's way easier than a
Mm.
Mosey library because part of the code
Yeah.
you do it in a visual patching environment. So they have it's in the browser. So you put like a block of a sine wave, and then another block of a filter, and then that generates a code, and then you import that code to your code, and then
Oh, so
you start
nice.
changing some things, and
Yeah. That's
so
awesome because I do find that Mozzie library quirky and there's some tricky things in there, and I really don't fully understand it.
yeah, and the Tinsy has the audio adapter. There are lots of options. Another option which I'm gonna try too, it's using the Raspberry Pi. Of course,
Yeah.
it's a different world, but there's some systems for the Raspberry Pi that are for audio, and they have with lots of synths built in. So it all depends,
Hmm.
like how much work, if you want to like code from scratch and like hard code everything, or you just want to get done as soon as possible. Hopefully, every year I say to myself like this year I'm gonna get to the synth part, do my synth course, because lots of people ask me. Um, but hopefully next year.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm
Uh,
there. I'm there. Count me in. First person to sign
okay,
up.
great.
There's just, it's kind of mind-boggling how much you can do. You start to go down the rabbit hole, and uh, you you get lost for years of project ideas that in a great way. I really didn't dream a year ago that sometimes I'd be thinking about code while I'm watching TV, but sometimes that happens now because I'm excited about MIDI controller idea. I'm over here going, oh, I could do this with an arpeggiator, and I really didn't anticipate, you guys. I'm 46 years old. I didn't think this would be happening. So, but
Yeah,
I love it.
it's pretty addictive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like usually people that haven't built anything, they usually ask me, "Oh, is it possible to do this?" And like, yeah, everything that physics allows is possible. Um,
Yes.
but then yeah, you get into the rabbit hole of like, hi, and this and this and this and this and this, and then you are doing this for life. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Like suddenly I was making MIDI controllers, and then teaching, then
classes.
living out of this is just like such a weird path. But like, I mean, if you guys start doing, like, you don't need to do as much as like Janis or like we are doing. You can just like build one controller. But
Oh yeah,
I
you
promise
don't
that like
have
if you build
to,
one,
but
you're
it's
gonna,
inspirational.
yeah, you're gonna want the next one, and or just keep adding stuff. And that happens too if
Just
you,
because you can.
yeah, yeah, and that happens too. Like if you start like learning code and like writing some software, there are things like Max MSP or Pure Data, Super Collider. So yeah, it's endless. There's always a new language, and then you see, oh, there's some people doing live coding where you can make music with code live, and like, oh man, should I learn that? Like, and then like visuals, then you can learn you can do visuals, and then you can program LED lights, and yeah,
Yes. It's you can take it. You can basically take it as far as you want to. But I do like to finish projects. So circling back to my handpan,
mm-hmm.
along the way. So I did want to share this. I think the root commander would be very helpful for anybody who wants to build one. And Gustavo's going to share the link for open source. If you want to do that, you'll understand it a lot more if you are involved in the nerd musician work. But anyway, the information is there. But then if you do have an idea of your own that you don't feel is completely covered in what's in the teaching will get you going. And then I wanted to share these other things because tinkering along the way is how you can really learn to take it in a direction to start doing something from scratch. So the handpan eventually did get made. The first semi-finished version was on a cigar box, of course. Getting back to my cigar box guitar maker roots. But this one here, oh, this is my cigar box Panduino. It's got these touch pads. It's got the screen. And this one has a series of buttons that I use to change the scale and whatnot on it. So it had a locking button and then a button to toggle through like a menu structure to change different things, and then an up and a down button. And it worked, and it took some figuring for me to figure out how to do a menu. And that was a great learning process. But in the end, I kind of felt like this was kind of clunky. And I thought, well, I should figure out how to just use the pads, like have a button. So one button to go into set mode and not play mode. But then just use these pads here because I already have these touch sensors instead of having all these extra buttons and extra wiring. So just, fewer parts to break and solder wrong or just simplify life a little bit. But this one is super exciting. I finished this in May, and having this really working, this is a full MIDI controller. So I went with the traditional MIDI instead of the USB over MIDI, but and then I was using a virtual instrument, a VST, within a program called Contact. There are a few handpan virtual instruments in Contact, and I have a quick demo of this guy in action. It's short, but just like pure joy, excitement of getting this working and having a virtual handpan. And later on in the more recent version, I'll show changing scales and stuff. But first, the cigar box Panduino.
The vintage version.
Yes, vintage May 2022. Here we go. You guys get to enjoy my little graphics.
Yeah, I think I saw this video on your YouTube and I liked a lot, and the composition too, because it's easy to get lost in this instrument or just like improvising because every note is right. So I see a lot of that, but like I really liked the theme. Like sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Sounds like a handpan. Like if you do not see that it's a MIDI instrument, like really sounds like the original one, and it sounds like you play the instruments. So that's really
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah, thank you so much. This realizing this, creating this, and having it work and be so playable and expressive. It was one of those things where once it was done and I really sat back, I was kind of like, how did this happen? I can't believe that I was able to do this. How, just so excited, just so much joy of playing it because really I love making instruments, but I love making music and um, just being able to sit around and more conveniently play. It's so fun. But from there, further development and I have shared this. Actually, I've really only shared it with people who I'm directly connected with, and then a woman handpan community that I'm connected with. But some people are potentially interested in having something like that. So then my next step after um, scaling that up to more notes, which I have completed, is making some PCBs. So I have your KiCad course to learn how to design the PCBs so that I could put together some kits for people to be able to have this instrument. And one of the big things for me, because I'm a potter and um, earlier spent so much time at the computer, I have some repetitive motion issues and some tendon issues in my hands and arms and kind of a nerve pinch in my neck. And my hands are really sensitive. And as much as I love my hand pans, it does hurt sometimes to play it. This I'm able to calibrate for a light touch and it doesn't hurt my body to play the instrument. And that's a big deal for me. And there are a lot of people who do music therapy. This is kind of what really motivated me to be interested in making a few to share with other people this instrument. There are people who do music therapy and people who share music with people in nursing homes and things like that, and want to be able to play instruments like a handpan, but maybe it takes a really specific touch to play it, and it's a little difficult to do as a learning it from scratch. But this would give people a way to play that kind of music more easily. So that's something that I'm interested in and helping people in that way.
Yeah, and
But
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are interested in the same thing as you, and this instrument specifically would help a lot because
yeah,
the handpan, there are other instruments, um, but they are all like also big, sometimes expensive. and one instrument like this
Yes.
can be so practical.
Yeah. So
And just one
I
quick
have,
question.
yeah.
Someone asked, "What's your YouTube channel?"
Oh, yes. Um, my YouTube channel is actually under my pottery business name. So if you search Evolution Stoneware Pottery, or Janis
Evolution.
Wilson Hughes, you should find it. I think the channel name is just Evolution Stoneware.
Okay, I'm gonna wait for you to send me that so I don't type it wrong. But Evolution
Okay.
Stoneware, and I'm
Yeah.
going to put that in the description too.
Okay.
And I don't know if we're gonna talk about more the technical details about the instrument, but like I'm curious about which kind of sensors you used, how was
Mhm.
your experience with them, and hardware and code wise.
Yeah. So this is, of course, the most current version, just finished on Saturday, of the Panduino. So this has um, 13 notes plus 4 percussive notes, screen, something right now. I think I have 22 scales programmed in, and a set button here. So this has regular old standard MIDI out. So you can play as a virtual instrument, but I've also created a sampler, which I'm pretty into, which is a whole nother thing we could talk about sometime. Um, using a board that's available from SparkFun, so that I could expand the virtual instruments. So it was, well, essentially that allows me to go DAW-less with my handpan. So um, playing the handpan samples instead of through the DAW, I was able to do a few different things, customize my percussion sounds, expand the notes, the note range, because I have 3 VSTs that I've bought, and there's one that I like the best, but there's none of them I'm completely happy with for how far I'd like it to go with the note range, or just the way that it sounds. Some of them sound better than others for sure. Um, but yeah, so I'm using piezos, and some people call them piezo's. It's spelled Piezo. Uh, but in American English, it's a term piezoelectric, and they're these. I even as a chemical engineer, I don't understand how these things work, but they're a metal and ceramic composite, and when they're and when they have force applied to them, it creates a current, and that current is measurable in Arduino with an analog input. And so you get velocity sensitivity with them. That they're vibration sensors, and they're used in acoustic guitars. So many acoustic guitars where you can't see, like commercial ones where you can't see a pickup, but they're acoustic electric, they use piezos actually. So I was comfortable with them from working with piezos in guitars. And also electronic drum triggers are made with piezos. So like a Roland E drum kit, those have piezos in there. Um, the coding, there are some good examples out there. That part is probably took me a really long time to get to my finished controller. And so Notes and Volts has a really long live stream, too, where he develops how to read piezo, like for a drum signal with velocity. They're on YouTube, so the YouTube user is Notes and Volts. So if you search for piezo from him, you can find some really great help there from the code. And then the next thing that you need to do is isolate them from each other because they pick up vibration. So if things aren't set up just right, you hit one and the one next to it will pick up, or will pick up the same, will trigger a sound when you don't want it to. So
Is there
that was
any,
maybe way more in depth than you really wanted me to talk about.
is there
Sorry.
anything specific you did in the enclosure to separate them, or just using separate pads already worked?
One thing that you want to do is have a firm enclosure. So the less your enclosure itself vibrates when the pad is hit, the less you'll have false triggers. And like having something like a foam or like a rubber mat on top will help, and some padding underneath it too. So like sandwich your piezo.
So which material you
And
have
then
below the piezo? Is the same material that you have on top?
it's actually there's Velcro underneath.
Okay.
So the other thing with piezos is that they can break over time. So with mine, I have it set up where it could be replaced if it had to be, without having to destroy part of my controller. So that was a design consideration too.
Yeah. This thing about, like, I haven't done any videos with this type of sensors. I didn't put in the code. I just had some experiments, and there are different options for if you want to do some sort of percussion sensor. And I think the piezos probably are the most common ones, right? But I think
They're not
piezos,
the most sophisticated. They're
yeah,
probably like the simplest,
yeah,
which was why I went there.
yeah. It was when I was researching about it, I opened my MPK MIDI, my keyboard, because they have those MPC pads.
You tore it open.
Yeah, I wanted to see how it's done, and it's completely different. They have the way they usually do this kind of thing, and then we have also aftertouch. It's how pressure sensors work, which work a little different from piezos. Is that, like, you have two terminals, so they have a PCB, and the terminals, they are like intertwined. They don't touch each other, but like it's like a maze. And on top of that, you have a material called velostat, which it increases or decreases its resistance.
Conductivity.
Yeah, the more you press. So the more you press, the less resistance it has. So it connects the two terminals. So the more you press, more current passes through the terminals. So when you beat something, depending on how hard you beat, the more current will flow through the terminal. So that's another way you can have velocity. So that's how those pressure sensors work. In the instrument, the XT Synth, I had 4 pressure sensors, but they were bending into the inside of the enclosure, and they all broke. So those things about prototypes, like you don't think that the sensor will break. So it's good that you already thought about it. That's why I remember that.
Yeah, a lot of people with the electronic drum kits, over time, I know the piezos were out and have to replace them, and they can just stop working one day. So I didn't want that to be a problem with all of the work that I put into this. But I began experimenting with Velostat. I bought some Velostat film to make my own sensors, and I made 2 little prototypes. But I've only hooked them up in the most basic way, like over serial, just to see values coming through and that they do pick up and change. But I haven't tried using them to trigger notes or anything yet. But that would be, I kind of figure like maybe a Ferrari version of my Mustang here. Of my muscle car version here. That'd be the more refined version. uh, so I say that because I drive a Mustang. But anyway, and the really great part about that is you don't get any cross triggering because it actually has to be pressed. So it's not picking up a vibration. It has to have it pressed to pick it up. So you won't accidentally trigger any other note by hitting one too hard or something like that. But I haven't gone there yet because I figured I would probably make the sensors myself, and by making them myself, I thought they might actually be less reliable than the PA7. So
the one interesting solution is that if you're thinking about creating a PCB for the controller, you can just create a circle PCB with in the same way that those MPC pads work, where you design the terminals like that, and then you just put the velostat and the foam on top, and then you just have two terminals where you can solder three terminals, solder the wires.
Yeah, but yeah, that's not a big deal because the way that I was making my prototypes was using copper tape, copper foil on either side, and then like a plastic plastic up and down, very thin plastic, copper foil, and then the velostat with the copper foil having the wires attached.
Yeah, that's just an idea for your Kickstarter campaign.
Right now I do not have aspirations for that, but we'll see. But if it's okay, I'd love to share this final most recent Panduino version here, fresh off the press on Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
So you'll see in this video, it's like 2.5 minutes long. I'll show changing the scale, changing the key and the scale, so you can get an idea of how this changes. This is running on samples now in this video, not through the DAW. The samples are just playing through this little guy here.
What's the name of this board?
It's called a wave trigger. WAV.
Okay, you don't need to ask what this is for. It's a wave trigger. Perfect.
Yeah. It's available from SparkFun. If anybody in the course group decides to mess around with one, I found it a little tricky to set up, so maybe I can help you if you have trouble. You can put any kind of samples you want to on there and set it up to read MIDI input, which is really cool. You have to build your MIDI input circuit, but Gustavo teaches you how to do that. Anyway, so this is DAW-less again, just running a sample player. And if anybody is still watching this at this point, I really do recommend headphones for this if you want to be able to pick up the velocity sensitivity, because YouTube compresses audio, and I noticed on the video that I don't think it's as apparent through like a phone speaker. But it is very velocity sensitive.
I don't know if I think you're not seeing the chat, but there's a lot of people saying that's really cool, love it. Well, that's cool. People asking your YouTube channel, love the idea, Janis.
Thank you, guys.
Panduino is such a wholesome name. Some questions that you already answered. So yeah, people are liking a lot.
Thank you, guys. I'm grateful. I hope you enjoy this short video. All right. So that was what I dreamed of when I started Gustavo's course. That I really, I'm just really excited that I was able to build this.
Wow, it's so nice, so nice. Well, I love this instrument. I love I always loved the handpan. I always wanted to have one too.
Yeah.
There's like every time I see around here where I live, I haven't seen. I mean, besides my friend that has one, like sometimes you see people playing on the streets. I always like, can I play a little bit? And
Hmm.
so I'm definitely on my thoughts like building one when I see your code. I'm gonna make a video building Janis Wilson's MIDI handpan.
Yeah, so the thing I'm excited about also with the DAWless version, although obviously if you're an Ableton user, you could do this in Ableton as well. Which I'm not, but live looping, even just with a physical looper, is something that I'm kind of excited about with using the sample player. I think there's a lot of possibility with it. And of course, you could run this into a synth and jam that way too.
Yeah, and those sounds they are from the Contact libraries, or you sampled where they come from.
Yeah, so there's a wide range. Some of them I recorded myself. Um, like for instance, the percussion sounds on the inside, those are all I recorded myself from my handpan. Some of them are from the Contact libraries, different ones, because I hate to say it, but some of those libraries have out of tune notes. The whatever handpans they sampled from needed tuning, and that just drives me crazy. uh, and some online sources too and samples.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share. I really appreciate anybody who's taken the time to watch this.
No, thank you, thank you. Um, if anybody has any other questions, we got some like, are the pads switches or those piezo things? So yeah, so those piezo things. Thanks for the detail. I was curious about preventing false triggers. So yeah, me too. Me too. Because usually when I have students building controllers with piezos, that's always happens. The false triggering is something that you have to fix, and you found
Yeah.
all the solutions. And
Well, it depends, it depends too on how you play it. If you were whacking on this with drumsticks, with the way that I have it calibrated, I'm sure you'd get false triggers as opposed to finger touches.
awesome. Yeah, so we didn't have today David because he told me that he had problems with his internet. But we had like a pretty long time for you to show everything, so it worked out. We're definitely gonna have David in another time. So Janice, congratulations. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Many thanks to you.
And
Thank you.
hopefully we can do another one, another day, maybe get into depth in one project, or maybe show something else. But I really enjoyed today. I enjoyed yesterday, so I'm definitely going to do more streaming, like live stream with students, but not only students. And like I don't even like to say like students because you guys are like our pros. And but maybe with more people from outside. So guys, pay attention, subscribe to the channel, right? And please, Janice, do you have any final thoughts or where people can find your work, Instagram, YouTube, anything, how they can contact you? And I'm also going to put in the description after.
Yeah, so I just recently started an Instagram channel. Or whatever, I have like 4 posts on there. But my name on there is The Noisy Maker. And on YouTube, I have a music page, or no, on Facebook, I have a music page that's Janis Wilson Hughes Musical Musings. If you don't want to just be friends with me on there. And on YouTube, I have all kinds of varied music as well as pottery content on my channel, which is under my pottery name, which is Evolution Stoneware Pottery. Or if you search my full name, Janis Wilson Hughes, it's Janis with an IS, you'll probably find me on YouTube that way also. But definitely love to be connected with anybody out there who wants to be friends. And yeah, maybe another time I can share some of my favorite like quick tips that I've come across in building or something.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm probably going to contact you also with doubts.
Yeah.
So thank you. It's late. Thank you to guys who stayed until the end. Thank you so much. Janis, please write me down all those links. Can be on Facebook or whatever, so I can put in the description because there's different links. We're not going to remember everything. So thank you so much. I'm going to change here the screen. Good night, Janis. We were almost neighbors in the past, city neighbors.
We were almost.
Yeah, in Georgia.
Yeah.
So
could cross paths.
Yes. Good to meet you.
You
So
too. Thank you so much, Gustavo. Thanks, everybody.
and guys, thank you for staying. That was so nice. And tomorrow we have the how to build your MIDI controllers live stream too. Tomorrow I'm going to teach you everything I wanted to know when I started. It's completely free. It's going to be a lot of information, but to summarize, you will learn how to build a MIDI controller with buttons and potentiometers or knobs. I'm going to cover all the basics of the Arduino, which is the brain of the MIDI controller. We'll be building, and we'll do this. I'm going to do physically, I'm going to show everything, but also I'm going to do it in the browser. So you can simulate using a really nice tool that I'm going to show you tomorrow. Okay, so don't miss out. It's going to be at 7 p.m. São Paulo time, or GMT -3. Tell your friends, tell your family, and your dogs and your cats to be there, okay? So thank you so much, guys, everybody that was in the chat and who was not in the chat too, but was here watching, okay? So see you tomorrow. Don't forget it, and ciao.